The latest news 24/7. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Logan Extermination. As of this morning, Bryson Bem is the only local candidate who has filed to run for the elective office of County Clerk Auditor in the Republican special election scheduled for April 13th. Much of the recent news about the Cache County Clerk Auditor's office has been uniformly bad. In October 2023, the Cache County Council voted to split the responsibilities of the Clerk Auditor's office, an elective post that has been combined for a decade. Following last fall's municipal election, clerk's office personnel had to conduct a recount with 3 of its key employees sidelined on administrative leave. In February, state officials issued a highly critical report of the county's handling of that election. The office of Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson cited 31 issues where Clerk Auditor David Benson had fallen short of statutory obligations of his office, including falsifying a logic and accuracy test of voting tabulation equipment and failing to maintain an accurate chain of custody of election ballots. As a consequence of that report and an investigation by the county attorney's office, former election supervisor Dustin Hanson is now facing criminal charges. In early March, Benson resigned from his elective post, citing a need to address family health issues. Bem had been the chief deputy and election supervisor in the administration of former clerk auditor Jess Bradfield, who resigned in June 2023. The filing period for candidates seeking the clerk auditor's position in the April 13th special election will close at 5 p.m. on Saturday, April 6th, according to Jeff Cox, the chair of the Cache County Republican Party. KVNU News Time is 5:05. KVNU weather for tonight. Becoming mostly cloudy and a 30% chance of rain showers after midnight, low in the mid-30s. Rain showers tomorrow with some gusty winds out of the south up to 20 miles per hour, shifting around to the west in the afternoon. High temperature will be around 50. Chance of rain and snow showers Thursday evening, then slight chance of rain showers on Friday. 50 has been our high today. It's 48 right now at KVNU. Call the advocates if you are not at fault, if you've been injured in a car, trucking, or slip-and-fall accident. Or you can chat online at utawadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550.
Hi there. We're new neighbors, the Vols. I'm Horrible, and this is my wife, Terrible. Hi! It was such a warm winter, we got to have an army of children. Now we're all fixing up to tear up your yard. The only warning sign of us is some surface tunneling holes, and then boom! Yard death. What do you think? Should we get started, Ma? Yep. These guys aren't going to call the troops at Logan Extermination. Nope. Voles are a problem. We're going to tear up your lawn and garden, and there's nothing you can do.
Voles are a problem, but there is something you can do. Call Logan Extermination at 752-8450.
KVNU News Time is 5:06. 3 teen boys accused of shooting and killing a man who was trying to buy a gun from them and then disposing of his body in a remote area of Utah County are now facing multiple felony charges. 2 of the teens were charged Tuesday in 3rd District Court as adults. Rohan Sharoon of Salt Lake City and Pedro Alexis Romero Bustos of West Valley City, both 17, were charged in 3rd District Court with murder and aggravated robbery, first-degree felonies, obstruction of justice, and abuse or desecration of a dead body. Sharoon was also charged with being in possession of a firearm by a restricted person. Charging documents also list a boy who turned 16 on Tuesday as a defendant, but as of Tuesday, he had not been charged as an adult. On March 17th, 21-year-old Alex Franco was last seen getting into a white Jeep Liberty at about 4:15 p.m. close to his home. Witnesses heard a gunshot shortly after Franco got in the vehicle, which then sped away. 2 days later, his body was discovered in a remote desert area in Utah County with a single gunshot wound. Romero Bustos allegedly told investigators that when the three teens drove to Franco, they decided to rob Franco. He entered the vehicle on the rear passenger side and gave Sharoon money, who then told Franco to get out of the vehicle. And Romero Bustos claimed that Franco and the 16-year-old got into an argument, and that when he turned around to look in the back seat, he was pepper sprayed. Bustos stated he then heard a loud bang and saw Franco slouched in the back seat with his head down. And a 30-year-old Midvale man has been arrested and charged with allegedly sexually assaulting a woman in Cache Valley. According to police, Jesse Bautista was booked into the Cache County Jail on Monday after a judge previously issued a warrant for his arrest. According to the warrant affidavit, North Park police officers received a report from the alleged victim claiming she had been molested in January 2022. The woman explained how she had taken sleeping medication and later woke up to find Bautista fondling her. Police officers questioned Bautista during the investigation. He reportedly admitted to groping the woman on several occasions. Bautista made an initial appearance Monday in Logan's 1st District Court. He was charged with 2 counts of forcible sexual abuse, a second-degree felony. KBNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Hey golfers, are you ready for the golf season? Birch Creek's punch passes are on sale at the spring sale price, currently at a $40 discount, and are on sale through March 31st. Visit birchcreekgolf.com and purchase your punch pass online. Birch Creek's punch passes never expire and are valid 7 days a week. So if you love golf, call Birch Creek today or visit birchcreekgolf.com and purchase your punch pass at the spring sale price. That's Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithfield.
Do you want to learn to ski or snowboard or know someone who does? Come join the Learn to Turn first-time beginner class at Beaver Mountain. $90 gets you a 2-hour group lesson, your ski and snowboard rental, and a Little Beaver lift ticket for the day. Learn to Turn is for ages 7 and up for skiing and snowboarding and is offered daily at 10 a.m. Or try Learn to Turn 123. Commit and complete 3 Learn to Turn packages in one season for $250 and get a Little Beaver season pass for the rest of the season. Come on up and ski the Beav.
Hi, John Weiss here. At Heritage Ford in Tremont, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals, we do things a little differently. We make your car buying experience easy. With our Heritage E-Price, you can be sure you are getting the hometown deal. Come in today for invoice pricing on all new 2024 Ford models and get below invoice pricing on all 2023 models. Come visit your friends at Heritage Ford in Tremont, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Join us each week for Music and the Spoken Word, featuring the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, the longest-running continuous weekly network broadcast in the world. Each episode features modern and traditional arrangements of spiritual, classical, and contemporary music and a timely, inspiring message. Truly an uplifting program that will have you returning to each week. Music and the Spoken Word with the Tabernacle Choir.
Sunday mornings at 8 and again in the afternoons at 6 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. You hear them each week here on Tuesdays on For the People, Sutherland Institute and their Defending Ideas series. Each week a new topic of discussion and new guests, and our listeners get a little sneak peek at that each week. Tuesdays at 5, but a bonus this week, checking back in again with our friends at the Sutherland Institute to talk education, specifically education curriculum. The issue has bubbled up in legislative debates, and there is, of course, a national conversation about this as well. The idea, in general, is getting parents more involved in K through 12 public school curriculum, and it's billed by backers as an effort to increase transparency in the process. Joining us now from the Sutherland Institute, Christine Fairbanks. And Christine, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
How did I do as far as trying to encapsulate all of this? I know there's a lot more to it, but that's the gist, right? The idea of giving parents a way to engage more directly with schools and curriculum in classrooms?
That's a great encapsulation of it. Yeah, I mean, since the pandemic, there has been an uptick in parents being interested in what their students are learning and what's going on there. There's been, some controversies about what is in the classroom, but overall, there's just kind of been this uptick in parents wanting to have a say in the classroom, really re-engage that parent-school or parent-teacher partnership, and curriculum transparency is a big part of that as well.
Coming myself from a family with a lot of teachers in it, I was excited to see that Sutherland is taking a nuanced approach to this, partially because of some results of a recent Sutherland survey done with excuse me, it's been one of those days, Y2 Analytics. I can't speak. This is a polling group here in Utah, and based here in Utah, and Sutherland commissioned them to do some surveying of parents and get a feel for this. And there was a bit more than moderate interest in the general idea of curriculum transparency. But Christine, I like this because this is one of my concerns as well. Again, coming from a family of teachers, there was notable concern from backers of this idea of curriculum transparency on how this might affect teachers. And that's what's made this a bit of a difficult needle to thread, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. So a recent survey shows that majority of likely voters in Utah strongly support some sort of, curriculum transparency policy in public schools. And then it really broke it down by these three different approaches. One would be to require schools to share their curriculum with parents. Another would be to reward individual teachers if they share their lesson plans with parents. And then another would be to require teachers to show their lesson plans. And so basically there's a majority support for all of these, but highest support for rewarding teachers for doing this. And then the low support for just requiring them. So we might see this as, a mandate that would give them consequences if they didn't. So, the takeaway from that, like you were saying, is kind of maybe more nuanced approach that respondents believe teachers have an important role to play in creating more transparency in the classroom,
sure,
specifically with curriculum, but that they're sensitive, right, to how it might impact them. And there's been a growing conversation across the nation, obviously in Utah, even in this past legislative session. How can we empower teachers? How can we not overburden? How can we show respect to the profession? So I think this survey sort of highlights and reflects that that approach that Utah has.
I like that approach. Christine, the example I use when we've discussed this on the show is I love the philosophical concept of direct democracy. I hate what I see happening in states where it's a bit too easy for ballot initiatives to make law, and it kind of undermines the representative system. And I think it kind of compares in this scenario where curriculum, you don't want it decided or voted up or voted down in some kind of whatever the whims of the populace might be at that time. But the idea of parents seeing the curriculum, it's hard to oppose that. It seems there may be an actual education benefit to that.
And that's right. And I think that's kind of where the conversation ought to move. There's been a lot about bad actors in the classroom and, inappropriate things happening in the classroom or instruction happening that parents didn't want. That's legitimate, that's valuable, and parents ought to be able to see that and to address that. But transparency on the whole is really this American ideal. We seek after it. We feel entitled to it when it's in a public institution. And transparency curriculum, like you're saying, it has a lot of different benefits. So teachers, there's scholarly research that has looked at different types of transparent instruction in higher ed and elementary and secondary. But there are benefits that I think are worth talking about. So teachers can have greater collaboration. If this information is out there, perhaps they can learn from one another. And a study showed that they were able to do that. Another showed that they were able to more carefully examine how assignments matched with assessments and outcomes. So this kind of planning ahead perspective, which teachers already have to do and often already do. And then as well as benefits to students, I think the data is really interesting on this, showing that students that have access to transparent instruction at the beginning of the term have increased confidence going into the course, increased sense of belonging. They understand the relevance of the course, and also showed that this is especially so for first generation, low income, or underrepresented students. So, and it makes sense on the one hand, the more information and the more context you can give people, especially if they're new or struggling with that environment or institution, is only helpful. And so there are academic and professional benefits to curriculum transparency that I think really need to be a part of the conversation as well.
And I know, Sutherland and anyone, backing this, we approach it carefully and talk about it carefully, which much respect for that. But something I can say as a radio host that you might not put in a policy brief, there are bad teachers. It just as there are people who maybe shouldn't be wearing a badge. Maybe there are people who shouldn't be lawmakers. No system is perfect. And
right.
This does seem like it might also keep everyone on their toes in that realm as well. If a teacher or a school or a district knows that the curriculum is going to go out and the parents are going to have a chance to see it in full, then maybe the classroom process around that curriculum gets a little tighter. Maybe, I'm just speculating here, but it seems to me there's an opportunity for improvement on all fronts.
Absolutely. And like I said, there have been reports and there's been plenty of news coverage about teachers that are, giving instruction on things that parents didn't want them to and were, openly inappropriate. So again, that is a legitimate benefit of curriculum transparency. And there's been a lot said about parents' rights bills and things like that. I think the next step then is to say, how can we make sure that this discussion captures everything that it can, which is academic benefits to parents, benefits to teachers. And you mentioned earlier about parents being involved. If parents know what's going on that semester, what the textbooks are, what the assignments are, they can be only more involved if they want to be with that information. They can be equipped to talk with teachers and help their students ask questions, and that's all to the good for student learning.
I love the idea of encouraging parents to get more involved and doing it in a way that, again, we're trying to strike that balance between, a system we maybe don't want, which is parents getting to vote up or down what curriculum is taught in a direct democracy kind of system, and on the other side, a system where everyone's just dropping their kids off at school, crossing their fingers, and wondering what happens. Those are two extremes, but we do kind of bounce between those worlds. What can happen here in Utah specifically? I know during the legislative session there were. I think Senate President said like 120 education bills. Teachers are a little wary, understandably, of any bill that's opened at this point, feeling a bit attacked at times. But is there an opportunity to bring all the stakeholders together here in Utah and say, look, everyone would benefit?
Yes, I definitely think so. And I think this survey sort of points in the direction, which is if we can have a discussion around rewarding teachers, perhaps that are already doing this. There's some discussion, teachers saying, I already do this, and that's fantastic. So rewarding them for doing that, perhaps through a stipend if they do this transparency work for their individual course.
Oh, nice.
But that might also incentivize other teachers who aren't already to go ahead and make their curriculum as transparent or online as possible. And that's sort of the next step that might be palatable in Utah. And you're right. Every session, education is one of those topics that just has a ton of bills. And so it kind of starts to feel like an overwhelm, especially for teachers. They're thinking, oh, goodness, what else is coming down the pike that I'm going to have to comply with? So the idea of doing something that's more voluntary, we're rewarding them rather than mandating, sticks versus carrots, sort of a policy speak, would maybe be an attractive next step and one I think that policymakers should look at.
It'll be exciting to see where this goes and what comes next on this front. And for listeners, if you'd like to know more, of course, Sutherland Institute has a lot of great information, including the survey we've discussed here that Sutherland did with Y2 Analytics, a Utah-based surveying firm. That is at sutherlandinstitute.org. I've also posted a link to an op-ed that, Christine, you wrote yourself for Utah Policy that digs into this a little bit more, gets into some of the data and the balancing, looking and respecting it, looking for ways to make these changes while respecting teachers and the job they do, I appreciate the nuanced approach in this, Christine. I appreciate your time as well for our listeners. And for listeners, again, SutherlandInstitute.org if you'd like to learn more and watch for this curriculum transparency issue to continue to bubble up here in Utah in interim and maybe even the next legislative session. SutherlandInstitute.org for more, and we'll be back right after this.
Devotion to country, service to Utah. Brent Orrin Hatch had a front row seat watching his father serve our state faithfully in the Senate. A constitutional conservative and lifelong Republican, Brent Orrin Hatch is a champion for the rule of law. He's running for Senate to stop this lawless president from destroying our country from within. Hatch will fight to secure the border once and for all and take on Mexican drug cartels to halt the flow of deadly fentanyl. Brent Orrin Hatch knows the national debt is just as big a threat to national security. Hatch won't rest until the budget's balanced and won't cave to the big spenders in both parties. Pro-life, deeply committed to religious liberty, rock-solid Utah conservative. Brent Orrin Hatch for Senate. Paid for by Conservative Outsider PAC, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.copac.us.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From the campaign trail, how Donald Trump's legal battles are helping his election efforts after what some call a period of Trump fatigue. Also, a new business planning model is needed for shipping logistics after the collapse of the Key Bridge in Baltimore. Hear who's doing what. And battling the high price of eggs ahead of Easter. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
After long enough of being alone, everyone must face.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Jumping backwards in the show here because Deseret News just published this. But speaking of the Attorney General's race, as we were at the start of the show today, here in hour two, a bit of an update on that. This is a really cool article that Hannah Syriac at the Deseret News has written, asking all of the candidates for Attorney General, Derek Brown, who we spoke with, a Republican candidate, former Utah GOP chair, David Carlson, Democratic Party candidate, Trent Christensen, a Republican who's probably not going to do well. He's actually not qualified to run. It was discovered Trent Christensen does not hold, he's not certified by the Bar Association, which is a requirement of running for Attorney General. Austin Hepworth, an unaffiliated candidate, Andrew McCullough, the traditional libertarian candidate for this office. Andrew McCullough, one of my favorite guests to interview, and we'll have him on the show soon. He's running again as libertarian, but a really fun guy. And another Republican candidate, Frank Mylar, also a perennial candidate, Michelle Quist of the United Utah Party, Rachel Terry, another Republican candidate, and ask them all the same question. How will you restore confidence in the office after, including Sean Reyes, 3 attorney generals leaving the office in some form of disgrace? What would you do to restore the public's trust in the state's top cop, the Attorney General? Honestly, just an amazing question. So here are some quick clips from some of their answers. Rudy Bautista, the Democratic Party's candidate, he said public oversight and he said similar to how the Salt Lake Police Department has done it, citizen review boards, and also making public documents easier to find, being more transparent. And Rudy said the Attorney General should also abstain from getting involved in national politics. That's kind of what has taken the wind out of current Attorney General Sean Reyes' sails. So probably good advice there. Derek Brown, who we spoke with in hour one, answered this question saying, and I wish I'd thought to ask this question, which I did. But if you missed that interview, his answer to us was a little longer, but he repeated the same thing he told us in this interview with the Deseret News. He said, this is an issue of just doing good work. If the Attorney General is doing his or her job, the public confidence just comes with the gig. So basically saying the Attorney General is getting eyes for other things. With Sean Reyes, it was wanting a cabinet appointment from the previous president. For Mark Shurtleff and John Swallow, it was money and rich buddies. But Brown basically saying, look, if you get in and do your job as Attorney General, the public will have confidence in the office. And he said he learned that as state party chair when he kind of came in after a messy administration was ousted as well. David Carlson, another Democratic candidate, said that he knows everyone in the Attorney General's office, and they've dedicated their lives to doing good and serving others. And he thinks that our last three Attorney Generals, Sean Reyes, Mark Shurtleff, and John Swallow, have all put their work in a poor light. So he said what he would do is spotlight the day-to-day work of the Attorney General's office staff. Trent Christensen, a Republican, again, this guy, he's going to be on the ballot. It's too late to remove him, but it was discovered this week that he doesn't actually have, he's not certified by the Utah Bar Association, which is a requirement for running for this job. So I'm not sure what he was thinking, but anyway, Trent said he would focus the entire office on electoral integrity, and that would restore public trust, he said. So I guess that's an answer. Austin Hepworth, unaffiliated candidate, said the Attorney General is supposed to enforce the law against all who break it, whether it's government officials, corporations, or individuals. But there's a natural conflict or tension in a Republican enforcing law against other Republicans. So Hepworth is saying basically by being an unaffiliated, independent candidate for Attorney General, just him being there as an AG would restore public confidence. All right. Andrew McCullough, Libertarian candidate, again and again and again, but honestly one of my favorite people to interview, so I'm not making fun of the guy. He knows he's not going to win. He runs to make a point and get things injected into the conversation, and he's a smart guy, despite the fact that he's a Libertarian. And if he was listening, he would laugh at that comment. But Andrew McCullough said, I would like Attorney Generals to be kinder in general, and I would like them to remember they're here to represent the people. But he said to restore public confidence in the office, I would stop the noise, stop the press releases, stop the political grandstanding, and just do the job. So his answer similar to Derek Brown's. And Frank Mylar, another Republican candidate, said, honestly, he said this has to be actionable. It's been 3 attorney generals. They're leaving the office in such tatters. The staff is even feeling depressed by their bosses' incompetence is the word he uses, not necessarily the word I'd use. But he said that Frank Mylar said that what he would do is he wouldn't accept gifts, and he would draw on his experience in management to better manage the office. Michelle Quist, a United Utah Party candidate, said instead of changing the Constitution to appoint an AG, consolidating power in the governor's office, she said that her solution would be to elect third-party candidates like herself, Michelle Quist, United Utah, because they sit outside the 2 major parties. Quist said they would be more independent voice. And then she said to restore confidence in the office, it's going to require increased transparency and communication. Trust depends on it. And finally, Rachel Terry, a Republican candidate, said, at the heart of all of this is increased trust through increased transparency, accessibility, and accountability. I will make sure that there are people in my office who work with the public to answer questions directly and to connect them with resources. So there you have it. All the candidates answering one single question. I like that. I hope we see more of this. In fact, maybe I've got to fill more time, so I've got to ask them multiple questions. But maybe one time we'll do an interview with candidates where I just record their answer to one question, put them all together in a single interview. What do you think about that? If you like that idea, let me know, kvnuftp@gmail.com. But I thought this was great, asking the AG candidates one question: how, after 3 attorney generals leaving office in scandal / embarrassment and shame, how would you restore the public's confidence in the office? And every candidate with kind of a different answer there, but a lot of them going back to transparency and avoiding political aspirations, which was, it turns out, was Sean Reyes' Achilles heel in hindsight, so which is unfortunate. People have asked me what I think about this race, and honestly, this is my only thought. I remember interviewing Sean Reyes as a candidate. The first time he was appointed by Herbert, and then the next year he had to run for the office, and we had him here in the studio, and he was so nice and so sincere and so real. I really believe he meant it when he said he wanted to clean up this office and wash away the stain of Mark Shurtleff and John Swallow putting a for sale sign on it, basically, for 5 years. He meant it. As to what happened in the years since then, I have no idea, but it has been the weirdest career trajectory to watch. And that's really the only thing I ever think when the Attorney General pops up. So if you want to see the full answers from these candidates, I've linked to the story on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:33, and the news is brought to you by the Franklin County Medical Center team. With National Doctors Day on March 30th and family physician salaries varying from $130,000 to $310,000 depending on the state, Wallet Hub has unveiled its latest report on the best and worst states for doctors in 2024. The study revealed that Montana ranks first, with Utah far behind at fourth. The research is intended to assist physicians in identifying regions where they can achieve financial success and find quality employment opportunities. To determine the best states for doctors, as well as those offering optimal health care for patients, Wallet Hub conducted a comparison of all 50 states and the District of Columbia across 19 key metrics. Those metrics spanned from the average annual wage of physicians to the number of hospitals per capita and the quality of the public hospital system. Along with Montana's ranking of number 1 and Utah's 4th, Idaho secured the 8th position. Wyoming was 16th. Colorado was 21st. Nevada 23rd. And Arizona ranked 25th. A man was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison in Salt Lake County for his involvement in 2 separate incidents of murder and aggravated robbery. Nestor Del Valle, convicted in connection with 2 separate incidents, received the sentence from a 3rd District Court judge on Tuesday. Del Valle's charges stem from events in September 2022. According to court documents, Del Valle approached 2 men, demanding they run their pockets. When they fled, he fired multiple shots, one of which struck a cell phone in a back pocket. In a separate incident 6 days later, Del Valle confronted a 16-year-old and his friends in Midvale. After asking where they were from, he opened fire, hitting one of the teens before fleeing the scene. Del Valle received 15 years to life for first-degree felony murder related to the Midvale homicide and an additional 5 years to life for first-degree felony aggravated robbery from the September 9th, 2022 incident. And prosecutors have added an additional attempted murder charge to the list of counts against a Utah woman who wrote a children's book about coping with grief after her husband's death and was later accused of fatally poisoning him. Prosecutors say that Corey Richens tried to poison him with a sandwich on Valentine's Day 2022. He died weeks later after prosecutors say Richens slipped 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl into a cocktail she made for him. The mother of 3 called her husband's death unexpected while promoting her book, and she was commended by many for helping children process the death of a parent. KBNU News Time is 5:37.
In today's game, the momentum will shift when one team goes on a run. A run. Like the diaper run you made last night? If you're thinking of getting a vasectomy, the healthcare teams at Franklin County Medical Center in Preston are ready. A vasectomy is a highly effective form of contraception. It's a simple procedure with a short recovery time, and a vasectomy means less stress for family planning. Talk to the experts at Franklin County Medical Center in Preston about your vasectomy. Start by visiting fcmc.org today.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. The tributes pouring in for former Democratic vice presidential nominee Joe Lieberman, dead at 82. ABC political director Rick Klein.
He was a doggedly, fiercely independent man, and he had deep friendships in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. He had a famous break with Democrats just a few years after almost becoming vice president along with Al Gore. He broke with party orthodoxy over the Iraq War, ended up saving his Senate seat as an independent and endorsing John McCain back in 2008.
Evidence being collected from the cargo ship that plowed into Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge and brought it down in the waters below. Maryland State Police Superintendent Colonel Roland Butler Jr.
Shortly before 10 a.m., divers located a red pickup truck submerged in approximately 25 feet of water in the area of the middle span of the bridge.
A stabbing spree, Rockford, Illinois, left 4 people dead, several others badly injured. No clear motive. This is ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight, increasing cloudiness and a 30% chance of rain showers after midnight, low in the mid-30s. Cloudy, rain showers tomorrow, high around 50. South winds 10 to 20 miles an hour, shifting to the west in the afternoon. 30% chance of rain and snow showers Thursday evening. Slight chance of rain showers on Friday afternoon, high around 50, and it's been to 50 today. It's 48 right now at KBNU. The snow is so heavy, those nasty voles had a field day in many local lawns. Make sure to call Logan Extermination to get those pesky critters under control. Call 435-752-8450. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
At Evolution Design, crafting custom stone countertops that become the heart of your home is what they do better than anyone. From the initial consultation to the final installation, their team is dedicated to supporting you every step of the way. Their years of experience will help guide you to the perfect product. Whether it's granite, marble, or quartz, the craftsmen at Evolution Design work tirelessly to bring your vision to life. Because home is more than just a place to live. It's where memories are made and shared. Get started at evogranite.com.
Evolution Design, quality set in stone.
Experience the timeless magic of the Carpenters with Carpenters Platinum Tribute Concert at the Ellen Eccles Theater in Logan, Friday, March 29th. Get ready to immerse yourself in the captivating melodies and unforgettable hits of the Carpenters. Carpenters Platinum takes you back in time with classic hits close to you. We've only just begun and more. This tribute concert promises to be an enchanting evening filled with the iconic sounds that have defined generations. Carpenters Platinum. Friday, March 29th, Ellen Eccles Theater in Logan.
Have you or a loved one recently been injured in a car accident or injured in a semi-truck collision? No one deserves to be injured in an accident, but everyone deserves an advocate. Hi, Cache Valley. My name is York, and I'm an injury attorney with the Advocates. Did you know that you can be compensated for medical bills, time missed at work, as well as pain and suffering damages? A motor vehicle accident is life-changing, so let the Advocates help you get your life back on track. Let us be your advocate.
Call 801-355-5550 or chat online at utahadvocates.com.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello. Sergeant Blau, a couple people had contacted us, told us about some of the things that you do with the police department. One individual said you're always dependable and caring. Another said you were a great example of being a community servant. So we got a $40 gift card for you to Firehouse Subs, just to thank you.
That's awesome.
Hey, well, you know what? You're awesome. I don't think most people have any idea what you guys go through.
Well, that's why we do it, so other people don't have to.
The Above and Beyond Salute on News Talk KVNU.
For 248 years, proud patriots have defended our freedom as American soldiers. One of the best ways to honor their service is through the Army Historical Foundation's Registry of the American Soldier. Open to all Army veterans, this free registry allows veterans or a loved one on their behalf to create a permanent public record of their service. No soldier's story should be forgotten. Learn more at armyhistory.org. That's armyhistory.org. Sponsored by Army Historical Foundation, Inc.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show. And I'm going to do my best to recap the legislative session. 45 days doesn't seem like a long time, but when they're debating close to 600 bills, with 150 of those bills passed in the final 2 days. It's tough. But I made some notes. I kept notes throughout the session and some highlights, lowlights, things like that. The 45-day session, lawmakers requested a total of 1,487 bills and then actually introduced with language, with actual words in the bill, 933 bills. And then in the end, they passed 591, setting a new record 3 years in a row. Yay. So, what did they do? Well, they're obviously the big ticket items that got a lot of attention. The $2 billion package designed to lure Major League Baseball and National Hockey League into Utah and construct stadiums, with the state helping with that, with taxpayers helping with that. To be clear, neither bill directly gives taxpayer money to the stadium construction, but creates what lawmakers call a special district, and it sort of spans the Utah State Fair Park and surrounding areas a bit, and then it would carve out some sales tax dollars and put that back into incentivizing the stadium construction. It would be a state-owned stadium at that point. That's for the Major League Baseball package. The NHL package creates what's called a reinvestment district right in downtown Salt Lake, and city leaders will then have the option to raise the sales tax 0.5% to help construct. This would be kind of a joint project between the NBA, rebuilding the Delta Center, and an NHL arena, and a remodel of the Delta Center in some way would be part of that. So that got a lot of attention, of course. There were other big bills, like Governor Cox's homelessness initiative. In his budget in December, he asked for a little over $100 million, I think, for housing aid and homelessness in Utah. And lawmakers gave him, there's about $25 million at the end of the session for what they call a low barrier shelter, expanding access to that. And then in the annual liquor bill, they rounded up on the sales tax on liquor, so it increased to liquor prices in state-owned liquor stores, and that money would then be earmarked for the homeless trust fund. So it gives you kind of an idea of where some of that went. So that's an overview of some of the bigger issues that got attention. There were, of course, the culture war bills at the start of the session. That got a lot of attention. A bill to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in higher education. That got watered down, deservedly, by pushback from higher ed, and lawmakers getting caught saying that they'd not been presented evidence that DEI offices are working, when then universities came back and said, well, actually, you were presented with that evidence, you just ignored it. It kind of sent a harmful message, I think. But it's a popular culture war thing, and our lawmakers can't seem to help themselves these days from that kind of stuff. Along cultural lines, there was also the brouhaha over state school board member Natalie Klein targeting a high school athlete, accusing a young woman of being transgender, which led to Klein's minions doxing the family and threatening the family, and the school had to hire security for the student. It was a very embarrassing episode. Klein, if she had any shame, would resign. She isn't. She's actually running for re-election. And the House and Senate censured her, which is the strongest condemnation the legislature can offer without actually going for impeachment. People were critical of them not going towards impeachment. The defense lawmakers had is, we've never done that before. And that's where things kind of landed. So there were also smaller bills, though, and smaller issues that didn't get as much attention. And that's what I kind of want to highlight this hour. Notes that I took through the session that didn't, as far as I can see, generate a single headline. For example, there was a bill that created a bias incident hotline where people can report incidents that might not rise to the level of hate crime, but would definitely, qualify as some sort of bias against, specifically mentioned by the bill sponsor when the bill was being presented, was bias incidents against Jewish and Muslim community members. That bill failed to advance in the final days of the session, but it did survive a committee hearing. And there was also a bill to expand crime victim rights before the parole board, and that's during when they're considering sentencing. And that bill makes it a crime of unlawful sexual activity with a minor, even if the defendant is 18, but is still in high school at the time of the crime. And then a separate bill that was kind of tied to this made it a crime for a person in a position of trust, like a teacher, to engage in sexual activity with a high school student, even if the student is 18. And lawmakers, I don't even know why they made pantsing a misdemeanor crime. I have no idea where that comes from. I know this is something that happened at my high school when I was that age, but now it's a misdemeanor. Don't ask me. There was a bill to crack down on police quotas. This is actually already barred in the state of Utah, but it isn't enforced. It isn't aggressively pursued. That bill never got a hearing, surprisingly, but there was a lot of support for that. Juveniles who are interrogated by police, their interviews must be recorded. This was Representative Marcia Judkins who pushed that bill, and I was surprised to find that wasn't already required here in Utah. But, so that's now official in Utah, that you have to, the law enforcement has to record and document the full interview. So along the lines of your government, I've talked about this before. Lawmakers, unfortunately, and the governor, unfortunately, signed a bill that would block the calendars of state officials, elected officials, members of the legislature, the governor himself. Their calendars would be blocked from public view. This is a direct assault on transparency in Utah. This is rolling back a 40-plus, or almost 40 years old, actually, as of this year. I just realized. 40-year-old open government laws here in Utah known as GRAMA, the Government Records and Access Management Act, GRAMA. It's done a great job, and attempts to carve out exceptions in it over the years have always been thwarted until this year. Lawmakers had some pretty specious arguments on why this needed to happen. In fact, the Salt Lake Tribune has a great article picking apart their arguments and showing that none of them are true. Now, of course, local media being very nice in how they say that. They're not coming right out and say, the lawmakers lied. They're saying things like they don't pass the truth test, or hard to find justification to prove, and things like that. But basically, lawmakers made a bunch of things up for something they've wanted to do for years, and they just steamrolled it through this year, showing again that they just feel a lack of accountability to the public, sort of like a what are you going to do kind of thing that pervades our legislature a lot these days, unfortunately, led to this. Senator Bramble, the sponsor of the bill, argued that it was just clarifying existing law and that calendars had never been a public record. This is patently false. And I know that from serving on the State Transparency Advisory Board, where we discussed this for several meetings for about a year, on whether or not addresses and phone numbers that might make it into, say, a lawmaker's calendar that was then requested through a public records request could be redacted, which, of course, as a board, we said, sure, addresses and phone numbers, those should be redacted. But to say that calendars had never been a public document, Senator Bramble, absolutely false. That was unfortunately repeated in the House by Representative Brady Brammer as well, the House sponsor of Bramble's bill. This, of course, comes right as a judge ruled that Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes' calendar is a public record. This bill doesn't change that, but it's obviously a response to that, and it's an unfortunate thing because it is absolutely in the public's interest to see a calendar of an elected official. It's something that really you should have access to and you should be able to see. But unfortunately, for the time being, that is not the way it works here in Utah. So Speaking of the Attorney General, there was a bill that blocked the Utah Attorney General from participating in side hustles. That was the actual terminology used on the House floor during the discussion and debate. Senator Andrew Stoddard told Fox 13 News that he ran the bill over questions around the Attorney General's work with Operation Underground Railroad. The Attorney General doing some outside lawyering, basically, making money off of it. And this bill says that the state Attorney General cannot do that. So, then finally, this was actually a good thing, though a technicality. Lawmakers passed a bill to update the definition of what constitutes an electronic meeting in Utah, just to make it official. Everyone was doing this already, but to make it official that an electronic meeting would include audio or video attendance at a meeting. And the bill says elected officials may not act together outside of a meeting in any concerted effort to predetermine the outcome of the meeting. I don't know how you'd enforce this, but it's now officially on the books that if you're caught doing that, it is against the law here in Utah. So, and one final thing to mention, all hour we're going to be recapping this, but I wanted to mention this as well. I didn't know this was happening, but a bill also blocked lobbyists from contacting lawmakers at their place of work. Most of our state legislators have day jobs outside of being elected legislators, and this was apparently happening where lobbyists were having a hard time getting hold of lawmakers during the outside of the 45-day session period of the year, and so they were tracking them down at work. And I don't know why any lobbyist would think that was a good idea, but also we've had him on the show a few times, but there was a signature gathering effort to do away with Utah's new state flag. We have two state flags, the official one and then this more updated sort of fancy, looks good on a T-shirt one. That bill or that signature gathering drive failed. They only got about half the signatures they needed to get that on the ballot. And so the backers got someone running for governor, Representative Phil Lyman. They got him to sponsor a bill that would just do it legislatively, just do away with the new state flag. That bill didn't even survive a committee hearing. So that has obviously been decided by the legislature at this point. So recapping the 45-day legislative session here on the show, and stick with us. More to come right after this.
You know their music. You grew up with their music. And now the Cache Valley Cruising Association is excited to bring them to you live in concert. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited. Two electrifying bands. One night. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters. The Commodores. Tickets are on sale now on the Cache Valley Cruise In website. This year, all seats are assigned. So buy your tickets now to ensure you get the best seats available. July 5th at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In. All seats are assigned. The Commodores and the Pointer Sisters. July 5th at this year's Cache Valley Cruise In.
Spring will get here, and when it does, those old rusted-out vehicles need to be moved. Call DD Auto and Salvage and let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Hey, I'm ABC's Daria Albinger. Gather up your W-2s and your 1099s because it's that time of year again. The tax filing deadline is right around the corner. We've got you covered every step of the way, from getting organized to filing to receiving your refund. We'll bring you advice from accountants, industry insiders, and yes, even the IRS. So join me for tax tips from ABC News now through the filing deadline, right here.
Weekday mornings at 9:50 on News Talk KVNU.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, we'll look at the fallout from the NBC News firing of the former chair of the RNC, what it means for the media landscape going forward. Plus, Clay.
We'll break down the latest on RFK Jr.'s presidential announcement, who it hurts, who it helps, all that and more. Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. In my ongoing pledge to listeners to wrap up each show on a high note or a funny note, sometimes the news can get a little heavy. At times, I'll be honest with you, I've gotten desperate finding the stories. Today, it just literally fell in my lap. This is a story from AP's Odd News. Yesterday, firefighters in southern New Jersey came to the rescue of a yellow lab stuck in the wheel of a spare tire. Franklinville Volunteer Fire Company found Daisy, 11-month-old yellow lab. They responded to a call, and her neck was pretty wedged in the middle of that tire rim inside a spare tire. But they came up with a plan. They used dish soap and water, didn't work. They tried vegetable oil, didn't work. Plastic wrap around her neck, hoping that would be slippery enough for her to slide out of. That didn't work. And so finally, they broke out the plasma cutters. They cut the wheel, and Daisy jogged out, and she was exhausted. She'd been stuck in this wheel, they believe, for maybe 2 days. The owner thought she'd just run away. She's just out back, stuck in a wheel, and they put her in a little red wagon. I'm kidding. And they took her home. I thought that was a very cute story. So, picture of Daisy in a fire blanket and getting snacks from the fire crew as they wheel her in this red wagon around the back fence to her house. There you go. There's your happy story to wrap up your day. Hope your day was decent, and I hope you'll be with us tomorrow when For the People returns. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
KVNU Logan.